JD, congrats on Devotion. I really enjoyed the movie, and I know your father was a naval flight officer, so it seems like you were the perfect choice to direct this movie. And growing up around aviation in the Navy, just how personal was this project for you?
Intensely. I mean, it's look, you always try to like put some personal part of yourself in the thing that you're working on, but Devotion kind of gave me this really rare opportunity to obviously like not just share the incredible story of Jesse and Tom, but in a weird way, like kind of also make a movie about my dad. And even though he and Jesse were 30 years apart, I mean, there are so many parts of both of their journeys that kind of overlap, so I don't know, it just gave me such a specific point of view on Jesse's experience and the world that he was in, by way of so many things that I had heard from my dad growing up.
And Jonathan Majors just wows me in every performance I see him in. And the scene where he's revving himself up in the mirror by
Mhm.
saying racist speech to himself, I thought that was such a powerful moment in the film, and it really stood out. How was it filming that scene? Because it really sets the emotional tone of the film that follows.
Yeah, I mean, Devotion was always going to be a movie where we kind of kept it in the present, but because Jesse was the Navy's first Black aviator, you need to honor that journey he's been on up until the film has begun. And I think that mirror scene is a way to do that. It's a way to sort of to see the cost of his journey so far, and how difficult it has been and what he has been up against. And Jonathan is the guy to be able to perform it with like that nuance and that heartbreak, and it's a tough scene to watch, and it was a tough scene to watch on set. I mean, just watching someone you care about kind of dig into themselves to almost re-hurt themselves, is yeah, I mean, it's such a heartbreaking thing to experience, but you understand sort of the dark psychology of using that as motivation, but yeah, when I read that scene for the first time, it was sort of the piece that really compelled me to tell this story.
Yeah, and something that's so impressive about Jonathan is that, like you said, he brings such nuance to the performance. He brings this vulnerability, and I think it's just so great that he's on this just streak of great projects. Creed 3, Ant-Man are exposing him to an even greater audience. So, when you worked with him, what stood out the most about just seeing his method and the way he's able to show that heart and bring these characters, to life on screen? Because uh, he's been on such a roll lately.
Yeah, I mean, first I saw him last night at the Creed premiere, and I was giving him a hard time. I don't think I've been to three of a friend's premieres in 6 weeks. It's like, I don't, because like I went to Sundance for Magazine Dreams, and I went to Ant-Man, and then I went to Creed. I was like, okay, like you've used all your cards for the year. But no, I mean, look, I think Jonathan is and will continue to be like one of our greats, and I think so much of that lives and just his sort of relentless pursuit of truth in a character, and I think when you look at his work, what is always so clear is that the character that he is inhabiting like is so alive and has, you know, has a history and has, you know, like idiosyncratic behaviors and has a point of view. And, you know, very quickly, you know, Jonathan Majors, the actor, disappears, and you're just sort of left with, you know, you're left with Kang, you know, you're left with Dame, you know, you're left with Mont. And it's such a awesome thing to watch because he yeah, I mean, he just he approaches it with such humanity, that these characters, yeah, they just they're fully alive, you know, and fully formed. And it, yeah, it doesn't matter what genre or what space he's in, like that reality, I think, you know, is seen in all of his work.
Yeah, and what's so great about Devotion is it's not just a character. You're dealing with real legacies of Jesse Brown and Tom Hudner, and
Mhm.
there's a great book with a ton of research that the script is based on. But did you get to talk to the families any before
Mhm.
filming?
Yeah, I mean, the families were quite beautifully uh, on this journey with us the entire time, or at least since, you know, since my involvement with since I started my involvement with the film. But you know, they came to set, and you know, they were, you know, the Glenn and Jonathan, you know, spent time with them. And you know, I think, and I've been able to say this, you know, a number of times on our journey with the movie, but you know, I think it was important for all of us on the filmmaking side to remember that, yeah, like these are real people, their families are here, this is their legacy, you know, and we're just here to sort of spread the word and to introduce more people to these men. But yeah, it also just kind of constantly reminds you of the real life stakes of all of this, because the families are still here, you know, fully impacted and tied together, you know, by the actions of these men, you know, back in 1951. So yeah, it's certainly, I think, helped us all really approach it with love, you know, and care, because you know, these were real folk stories and continue to be today.
One thing I've really enjoyed about your career is that all of your movies have been very different from one another, and I think that speaks to, a willingness to challenge yourself. So I'd love to hear, as a creative, how important is it to do something unique and not really settle into the same patterns and doing stuff like you've already done, because it's so easy to get into that groove.
Yeah, man, you know, got to keep people guessing, you know. I didn't have a period war drama pegged as my third movie, but you know, you read something, you're moved by it, you see truth in it, and have a point of view on how to do it. I mean, look, my brain 9 times out of 10 like defaults to genre. And you know, I love science fiction and you know, light fantasy, of which I haven't done fantasy yet. But yeah, I just I've become kind of genre agnostic and just want to tell stories that are meaningful to me. And to your point, it is really fun to come to a set and not exactly know how to do it, but figure out how you want to do it, you know. And there was definitely a lot of growing on Devotion. You know, I've never, you know, on one end I'd never worked with such scope, but on the other side, like I had never worked with such quiet, you know, and both of those living in the same film, you know, certainly gave me a lot of spaces to grow. So you know, I don't know exactly what's next, but you know, I would love to sort of fuse the you know, the scope of Devotion with the, you know, the grounded, you know, genre story of Slight, and you know, I'd like to do something with a creature again eventually, and so we'll bring that part of Sweetheart back in.
Awesome. I can't wait to see what's next for you. And congrats again on Devotion. And thank you for your time today, JD.
Hey, thanks, Tyler. Really appreciate it.